Hello and welcome to this Storybuilder video tutorial. The title of this tutorial is Barriers Explained Part 1. What went wrong and where? A barrier is what stands between any hazard and its target, a potential victim. Specifically, a barrier is an object, state or condition that acts as an obstacle in an accident path. Note that actions are not included in this definition. Actions can create a barrier or restore its functionality, but in our definition, actions are not barriers themselves. In Storybuilder, the barriers are shown as these green boxes here. So if we look at some barrier groups on the left-hand side of the bow tie, here we have one group of barriers. Further to the left here we have a second group of barriers, and even further to the left another group of barriers, so that's three barrier groups. Now if successful, these barriers on the left hand side work to prevent the center event from occurring. The barriers on the right-hand side of the bow tie, meanwhile, prevent or limit the harm caused to the victim by the accident. In simple terms, you should think of barriers in Storybuilder as exactly that, barriers which, if successful, stop the accident path from moving through the bow tie. In other words, a successful barrier causes an accident path to stop at that barrier. Of course, when analysing an accident, we're looking not at where these barriers have succeeded, but where they have failed. Barriers precede these yellow loss of control events, or LCEs, which often, as seen here, lead directly to the centre event itself. Here we are looking at the bow tie struck by moving vehicle, in which a failure of one or more of these three barriers in this final barrier group before the centre event leads to the final single loss of control event, victim in line of moving vehicle, which leads directly to the centre event, in which the victim is struck by a moving vehicle. Leading to the loss of control event here are the red oval barrier failure mode boxes, or BFMs, which describe how the safety barrier failed. If the loss of control event details what happened, the barrier failure modes detail where things went wrong. Here we have three barrier failure modes. We have visual and/or audible contact failure, location or position failure, and ability of victim failure. As you may have noticed, in this bow tie, these barriers in this barrier group deal with the victim, whereas the preceding barrier group, the five barriers in this barrier group deal with the driver of the vehicle and the vehicle itself. So therefore, for example, we have barrier failure modes such as vehicle state or condition failure, overspeeding, and ability to drive failure. Now, for the purposes of this tutorial, we're just going to look at the barrier group concerning the victim, and specifically we're going to look at the barrier failure mode visual and/or audible contact failure, which means that the victim did not see or hear the vehicle that was about to strike him or her. First, we can see that branching off to the left from each barrier failure mode are the incident factor boxes, or IFs. The incident factors give more detail about how our barrier failed. If you imagine our failed barrier to be a hunk of Swiss cheese, then these ifs, such as the vehicle not signalling or insufficiently signalling, or poor weather conditions, these are the specific holes in the cheese. Also branching off from the barrier failure mode here, we can see the barrier box itself. Visual contact by pedestrian victim of vehicle, meaning that the pedestrian or victim saw or heard the vehicle coming, and in turn, branching off from that, we have the barrier success mode, or BSM, which would have blocked and potentially ended this particular imaginary accident path, given the other barriers also succeeded. We've looked so far at what went wrong in the loss of control event, and where things went wrong in the barrier failure modes and incident factors, but in the next video tutorial, part 2 of Barriers Explained, we're going to begin to move back from the barrier itself and look at how things went wrong, starting with the barrier tasks seen here. So for now, thank you for watching this Storybuilder video tutorial, which was Barriers Explained Part 1, What Went Wrong and Where. But to learn more about barrier tasks and beyond, please watch the next video tutorial, which is Barriers Explained Part 2, How Things Went Wrong. Thank you.